My son invited me to a family celebration to take my money, but he had no idea what I had planned. The call came on a Wednesday afternoon. My son Brandon. "Mom, great news. I'm hosting a family celebration this Saturday. Everyone's coming. You, Aunt Linda, Uncle Frank, the cousins. Big announcement. You'll love it. Can you make it?" A celebration. An announcement. Everyone invited. It sounded wonderful, exciting, like maybe he was getting engaged, or promoted, or maybe, finally, he was having a baby. I'd been waiting years to be a grandmother. "Of course I'll be there. What time?" 2 p.m., my place, dress nice, this is special. I hung up feeling happy, excited. My son was celebrating something important, including me, including family. It felt good, normal, like we were close again after years of distance. I should have known better, should have questioned why Brandon, who barely called, was suddenly organizing family events. Should have wondered why dress nice mattered, should have been suspicious. But I wasn't. I was just a mother excited to see her son, excited to celebrate whatever good thing was happening in his life. I showed up Saturday at 1:55 p.m. Brandon's townhouse in the suburbs. Nice place, 2-story. He'd bought it 3 years ago with money from his tech job. Always did well for himself. Smart kid. Good career. Made me proud. I rang the doorbell. Brandon answered. Suit and tie. Formal. Very formal for a family celebration. "Mom, come in. Everyone's in the living room." Everyone. Aunt Linda, Uncle Frank, my cousins Rachel and Tom, Brandon's girlfriend Kayla, all sitting, all dressed formally, all looking at me with the same expression, expectant, rehearsed, coordinated. This wasn't a celebration. This was something else. "Brandon, what's going on?" "Sit down, Mom. We need to talk about something important." That phrase. We need to talk. Never good. Never celebratory. Always a prelude to something bad. I sat. The only empty chair. Center of the room. Everyone facing me. Like an intervention or an ambush. "Mom, I've gathered everyone here today because we need to discuss your financial situation, your safety, your future." "My financial situation? You're 72 years old, living alone, managing your own money. We're concerned that you might make poor decisions, get scammed, lose everything. We think it's time to set up a trust, with me as trustee, to protect your assets." A trust, with him as trustee, meaning he'd control my money, make decisions about my finances, protect me from myself. I don't need protection. I'm managing fine. Aunt Linda jumped in. Always did love inserting herself into things that weren't her business. "Margaret, be reasonable. You're getting older. Your mind isn't as sharp as it used to be. Brandon's just trying to help." "My mind is perfectly sharp." "Then why did you send that check to that charity last month? The one that turned out to be a scam?" Brandon had papers, actual documents. He was pulling out evidence. This was prepared, rehearsed, coordinated. "What are you talking about?" "The Veterans Support Foundation. You donated $5,000. It was a scam, Mom. They took your money. That's exactly the kind of thing we're trying to prevent." I'd never donated to any Veterans Support Foundation. Never sent $5,000 to any charity. Never been scammed. What was he talking about? "Brandon, I didn't donate to any. Here's the canceled check. From your account. $5,000. Made out to a fake charity." He showed me a photocopy. My signature. My account number. $5,000. To an organization I'd never heard of. But that wasn't my signature. Wasn't my handwriting. Wasn't my check. Someone had forged it. And I had a sinking suspicion who. "That's not my signature." "Mom, it's right here. Your account. Your signature. We're not blaming you. Seniors get scammed all the time. That's why we need to protect you. Set up the trust. Let me manage things before you lose everything." Uncle Frank chimed in. "Margaret, I went through this with my mother. Had to take over her finances when she started getting confused. It's the loving thing to do. Brandon's just trying to help." Rachel added her 2 cents. "Grandma's right. You're getting to the age where these decisions are hard. Let Brandon help. He's good with money." They'd all been convinced. Recruited. Told some story about me being scammed. About needing protection. About my declining mental capacity. All lies. All setup. all designed to pressure me into signing over control of my money. The trust documents were already prepared. Brandon pulled them out. I've had an attorney draft everything. Very simple. Your assets transfer to a trust. I'm the trustee. I manage everything. Make sure you're taken care of. Make sure nobody takes advantage of you. All you have to do is sign. He slid the papers across the coffee table, pen placed on top. Everyone watching. Everyone waiting. Everyone expecting me to sign because family said I should. Because I'd been labeled as declining, as vulnerable, as needing protection. How much am I worth, Brandon? In your estimation? Mom, this isn't about how much. You've obviously investigated my finances. You know about my accounts. You forged a check to create evidence of scam vulnerability. You've prepared trust documents. You know exactly what you're trying to gain control of. So tell me, how much? Silence. Uncomfortable silence. Nobody wanted to say the number out loud, because saying it made the greed obvious, made the scheme transparent, made the fake celebration into what it really was, a money grab. About $1.8 million, Brandon finally admitted. Between your house, your savings, Dad's life insurance, your investments, about $1.8 million total. $1.8 million. That's what this was about. That's why the celebration. That's why the forged check. That's why the trust documents. That's why the coordinated family pressure. My son wanted control of $1.8 million, and he'd lied, manipulated, and forged documents to try to get it. And as trustee, you'd have complete control, make all financial decisions, access all accounts, to protect you, yes. To protect me? Or to access $1.8 million you don't legally have any right to? Mom, that's not fair. Did you forge that check, Brandon? The one to the fake veterans charity? Did you create fake evidence to make me look incompetent? His face changed. Guilt, panic, confirmation. He'd done it. He'd forged a check from my account to create evidence of my declining capacity, to justify taking over my finances, to steal from me legally through a trust. I stood up. This meeting is over. I'm not signing anything. I'm leaving. And Brandon, you and I are going to have a very different conversation, very soon, through my attorney. I walked out, got in my car, drove home, and started making calls, because Brandon thought he'd ambushed me, thought he'd trapped me, thought I was just a confused old woman who'd sign whatever he put in front of her. He had no idea what I had planned, no idea that his scheme had just triggered something he'd regret for the rest of his life, no idea that trying to steal from your mother has consequences he never saw coming. My name is Margaret Hayes. I'm 72 years old. 1 week ago, my son invited me to a family celebration that was actually a coordinated attempt to take control of my $1.8 million estate through a trust he'd control. He thought I'd sign, thought I'd surrender, thought family pressure and forged evidence would convince me to hand over everything. He was wrong, and by the time I was done, he'd understand exactly what happens when you try to steal from someone who's been planning ahead for years. This is the story of greed, forgery, and the perfect trap I set for a son who underestimated his mother. Let me start at the beginning, so you understand exactly how we got here, and exactly what Brandon was about to learn. My husband Paul died 7 years ago. Heart attack, sudden, devastating. Left me a widow at 65 with our house, his life insurance, and 30 years of savings and investments. Total assets, about $1.5 million at the time. Now, $1.8 million with growth. Brandon was supportive initially, helped with the funeral, helped with paperwork, helped me adjust to being alone. He was a good son, caring, present, attentive, for about 6 months. Then the distance started. Fewer calls, fewer visits. Always busy with work, with Kayla, with life. I understood. He was 38, building his career, had his own life. I didn't take it personally. But the question started around year 2. Mom, how are you managing financially? Do you need help with investments? I work in tech. I know people who do wealth management. I could introduce you. I'm managing fine. Paul set everything up well. I have a financial advisor. I'm comfortable. But are you really maximizing returns? There are better strategies, better investments. You could be doing so much more with that money. That money, not your money. That money. Like it was separate from me. An entity he was interested in. Not me. The money. I should have paid attention. Should have recognized the shift. From son caring about mother to son interested in mother's assets. But I dismissed it. He's just being helpful. Just concerned. Just wanting to make sure I'm okay. Year 3, the suggestions became more direct. Mom, you should really add me to your accounts, just in case something happens. So I can help. So I can access things if you're incapacitated. I have a power of attorney. My attorney has all the documents. If something happens, it's handled. But I'm your son. I should be the one with power of attorney, not some lawyer. The lawyer manages my estate. You inherit when I die. That's how it works. He didn't like that answer. Got quiet, changed the subject. But I felt the tension, the disappointment. He wanted access now, not inheritance later. Access, control, management. Year 4, he tried a different approach. Brought up stories about elderly people getting scammed. Mom, did you hear about that woman who lost her life savings to a fake IRS call? Seniors are targets. You need to be so careful. I am careful. I don't give money to strangers. I don't fall for scams. But you might not realize it's a scam. That's how they get you. Maybe I should review your accounts. Make sure everything looks legitimate. Make sure nobody's taking advantage. Nobody's taking advantage. I'm managing fine. But he kept pushing, kept suggesting, kept hinting that I was vulnerable, declining, at risk, planting seeds, building a narrative. Margaret's getting old. Margaret's forgetful. Margaret needs protection. Margaret needs someone to take over. I started documenting everything, every conversation, every suggestion, every time he questioned my competency, writing it down, dates, times, exact words, building my own file, my own evidence, just in case. Year 5, he brought Kayla to the campaign. Margaret, Brandon's told me how worried he is about you, about your finances, about your safety. Have you thought about moving to assisted living? Somewhere with support? Someone to help with daily decisions? I was 70 years old, healthy, active, sharp. I didn't need assisted living, didn't need help with daily decisions. But she'd been recruited, convinced I was declining, convinced intervention was necessary, convinced Brandon was the hero trying to save his incompetent mother. I started seeing the bigger picture. This wasn't concern. This was strategy. Long-term, patient, systematic, building a case that I was incompetent, that I needed help, that Brandon should take over, all leading to the goal, access to $8 million. So I made my own plan, my own strategy, my own trap, because if Brandon was going to try to steal from me, I was going to make sure he faced real consequences, legal consequences, permanent consequences. 6 months ago, I changed my will. Everything went to charity. Animal rescue, children's hospital, Alzheimer's research, literacy programs, organizations that would use the money well, organizations that wouldn't scheme to steal it from me while I was alive. Brandon, $0. Specifically named as receiving nothing due to attempts to manipulate me into surrendering control of assets while alive. I made it clear, explicit, documented. Any attempt to challenge the will would result in forfeiture of any potential bequest and payment of all legal costs. Protection against contest. Protection against greed. Then I set a trap. Started mentioning large charitable donations. I'm thinking about giving to this veterans organization. They do great work. Waiting. Watching. Seeing if Brandon would take the bait. He did. 3 weeks later, a fake check appeared. Forged. $5,000 to a fake veterans charity, created to look like I'd been scammed, created to justify intervention, created to prove I needed protection. I didn't report it initially, didn't confront him, just documented it, saved the forged check, kept the evidence, let him think it worked, let him think he'd successfully created proof of my declining capacity, and I waited for him to make his move, to organize his ambush, to bring in family, to pressure me with the forged evidence, to try to force me to sign trust documents giving him control. I knew it was coming, had prepared for it, had everything ready, attorney on standby, Evidence collected. Plan in place. When Brandon called about the celebration, I knew exactly what it really was. And I knew exactly what I was going to do. Now comes the part Brandon didn't expect. The part he never saw coming. The consequences of forging checks and trying to steal from his mother. The day after the fake celebration, I went to my attorney, Gerald Morrison. He'd been Paul's attorney, now mine. Known our family for 20 years. Knew Brandon. Knew what he was capable of. Or thought he did. Gerald, my son tried to force me to sign trust documents giving him control of my estate. And I have evidence he forged a check to manufacture proof that I'm incompetent. I showed him everything. The forged check. My documentation of Brandon's 5-year campaign. The fake trust documents. My own notes from every conversation. Everything. Gerald's face went dark. Margaret, this is serious. This isn't just family manipulation. This is forgery, fraud, attempted financial exploitation of an elderly person. This is criminal. I know. You could press charges, have him arrested, prosecuted. He could go to prison. I know. Do you want to do that? Press charges against your own son? I thought about it. About Brandon as a child, as a teenager, as a young man. The son I'd raised, loved, sacrificed for. The son who'd grown into someone who'd forged checks and try to steal from his own mother. Yes, I want to press charges. I want him to face real consequences. I want him to understand that stealing from your mother isn't just wrong, it's criminal, and I'm not protecting him from that anymore. Gerald filed a police report. Fraud, forgery, financial exploitation of an elderly person, attempted theft by deception, multiple felonies, serious charges, prison-level charges. The police investigation took 2 weeks. They interviewed me, looked at my accounts, examined the forged check, reviewed the trust documents, talked to their forensic accountant, built a case. Then they arrested Brandon, at work, in his office, in front of colleagues, handcuffed, read his rights, taken to the police station in a patrol car, booked, processed, held pending arraignment. He called me from jail. One call. His one phone call. Mom, please. This is a mistake. I was trying to help you, trying to protect you. I didn't forge anything. This is all a misunderstanding. Please drop the charges, please. You forged a check from my account, Brandon. You created fake evidence to make me look incompetent. You coordinated a family ambush to pressure me into signing over control of my money. Those aren't misunderstandings. Those are crimes. But I'm your son. You're really going to let me go to prison? You're really going to steal from your mother? We all make choices. You made yours. Now face the consequences. I hung up, blocked his number, and waited for the legal system to work. If you've had family try to steal from you, coordinate schemes to take your money, forge documents, manipulate relatives into pressuring you, you know this betrayal. Share your experience in the comments. And if these stories of family greed and justice resonate with you, please subscribe to Lindsay Stories. Brandon's arraignment was 3 days after his arrest. I attended, sat in the back, watched him stand before the judge in an orange jumpsuit, watched the charges read, watched him plead not guilty, watched bail set at $50,000. Kayla paid it, posted bail, got him released. They left the courthouse together. He saw me in the parking lot, started toward me. Mom, we need to talk. Through my attorney, we have nothing to say to each other. You're really going to destroy my life over this? Over a misunderstanding? You really tried to steal $1.8 million from me through forgery and fraud. Yes, I'm going to let you face the legal consequences of your crimes. I'm your son, and I'm your mother. The mother you stole from, forged checks from, tried to declare incompetent. Family doesn't excuse crime, Brandon. It makes it worse. He didn't know what to say to that. Couldn't argue, couldn't defend. Just stood there realizing his mother wasn't going to save him, wasn't going to drop charges, wasn't going to protect him from himself. Kayla drove him home. I drove to Gerald's office to update my will, to make sure Brandon's criminal behavior was documented, to ensure he'd never benefit from my estate. Not now. Not ever. The trial took 6 months to prepare. Brandon's attorney tried everything. Tried to get charges dropped. Tried to argue incompetence. that Brandon genuinely believed I was declining, tried to claim the forged check was a misunderstanding, tried to negotiate plea deals. Gerald shut down every attempt. Your client forged a check, created fake evidence, conspired to defraud an elderly woman of $1.8 million. The evidence is clear. The intent is obvious. Take it to trial or plead guilty. Those are the options. Brandon's attorney advised pleading guilty. Lesser charges, reduced sentence, avoid trial, avoid jury, avoid maximum penalties. Brandon refused, insisted on trial, insisted on fighting, insisted he'd done nothing wrong, or maybe just couldn't face reality. The trial lasted 1 week. Prosecution presented the forged check. Forensic evidence showing Brandon's fingerprints on the fake veterans' charity paperwork. Bank records showing the check never cleared because the charity didn't exist. The fake trust documents. My testimony about the 5-year manipulation campaign. Aunt Linda's testimony that Brandon had recruited her with lies about my declining capacity. Brandon's defense was weak. I was trying to help. I genuinely believed my mother was being scammed. I was trying to protect her, but he couldn't explain the forged check. Couldn't explain why his fingerprints were on fake charity documents. Couldn't explain why he'd need to forge evidence if I was actually being scammed. His story fell apart under cross-examination. The jury deliberated 4 hours. Came back with guilty verdicts. Fraud, forgery, financial exploitation of an elderly person, all counts. Conviction on all charges. Sentencing was 2 weeks later. I attended. Gave a victim impact statement. Stood in court and looked at my son while I spoke. Brandon is my only child. I raised him, loved him, provided everything for him. When his father died, I thought we'd grown closer, thought he'd support me. Instead, he saw my inheritance as something to steal, something to manipulate me into surrendering. He forged checks, lied to family, created fake evidence, all to access money he had no right to. He didn't care about me. He cared about my money. That's not a son. That's a thief. And thieves deserve consequences. I ask the court to impose the maximum sentence allowable, not because I hate him, but because he needs to understand that stealing from your mother, or anyone, isn't acceptable. Not in family, not anywhere. Thank you. The judge looked at Brandon. Mr. Hayes, you exploited your position as an only child to attempt theft of nearly $2 million from your elderly mother. You forged documents. You conspired with others. You showed no remorse. You blamed your victim. This court sentences you to 8 years in state prison for fraud and forgery. You'll serve minimum 4 years before parole eligibility. Additionally, you're ordered to pay restitution of $20,000 for your mother's legal fees and emotional damages. 8 years. Brandon would be 46 when he got out. Middle-aged. With a felony record. No career. No relationship. Kayla left him after the guilty verdict. No inheritance. I'd already cut him out completely. No relationship with me. I'd never speak to him again. Nothing. He'd lost everything trying to steal everything. He looked at me as they led him away in handcuffs. Hoping for, what? Sympathy? Forgiveness? Reconsideration? He got nothing. I watched him disappear through the door to processing. Watched my son become prisoner. 847392. And felt relief. It was over. He'd faced consequences. Justice was served. After the sentencing, Gerald pulled me aside. Margaret, that took courage. Testifying against your own son. Watching him go to prison. Most mothers would have caved. Most mothers don't have sons who forge checks and try to steal their life savings. He made his choices. I made mine. He gambled that I was weak, that I'd surrender, that family obligation meant accepting theft. He was wrong. What will you do now? Live, finally, without fear of what he's plotting, without wondering when the next scheme will come, without pretending we have a relationship worth protecting. I'll live, on my terms, with my money, safe, and I did. The next 5 years were the best of my life. I traveled, donated to charities I cared about, made real friends, not family who wanted money, but people who valued me, volunteered, lived fully, free from Brandon's schemes, free from worry, free from the son who'd chosen greed over relationship. Brandon served 4 years. got out on parole. I didn't attend his release, didn't visit, didn't call, didn't acknowledge it. He was a stranger now, someone I used to know, someone who'd tried to steal from me, nothing more. He tried to contact me once. Letter forwarded through Gerald. Mom, I'm out. I'm sorry, I've learned my lesson. I want to rebuild our relationship. Can we talk? Please? I didn't respond. Threw the letter away. He'd had years to be sorry, years to understand. He'd chosen trial, chosen to blame me, chosen to call me confused and declining and incompetent, chosen to play victim. Sorry now, after 4 years in prison, didn't undo any of that. Didn't rebuild trust, didn't change who he'd shown himself to be. Present day. I'm 77 years old. Brandon is 43. Somewhere. Doing something. I don't know. Don't care. Don't think about him. He's not my son anymore. He's a felon who tried to steal from me. Nothing more. My estate is now worth $2.1 million, all going to charity. Nothing to Brandon. Explicitly stated, documented, protected. When I die, he'll find out he's been permanently disinherited. That his scheme cost him not just 8 years and his career and his relationship with me, but $2.1 million he'll never see. That's the real consequence. The permanent one. The one that lasts beyond prison, beyond parole, beyond life. My name is Margaret Hayes. I'm 77 years old. 5 years ago, my son invited me to a family celebration that was actually an ambush to force me to sign trust documents giving him control of my $1.8 million estate. He thought I'd sign. Thought I'd surrender. Thought I was just a confused old woman who'd do what family told her to do. He was wrong. I had him arrested, prosecuted, convicted, sent to prison for 4 years, disinherited completely, made sure he'd never benefit from trying to steal from me. He had no idea what I had planned, had no idea that his mother had been documenting everything for years, had no idea that forging checks has real consequences, had no idea that greed would cost him everything. 5 years later, I'm thriving. He's a felon. I'm worth $2.1 million. He's disinherited. I'm free. He's living with consequences. And I'd do it all again. Without hesitation. Without regret. Without apology. Share this if family has tried to steal from you. Comment if you've had to choose between protecting yourself and protecting family from consequences. Subscribe to Lindsay Stories for more stories of family greed and perfect justice. He invited me to a celebration to take my money. I sent him to prison instead. Best decision I ever made. That's everything. EOF. What I need to explain now is what those 5 years between Paul's death and Brandon's scheme actually looked like. The slow erosion of our relationship. The gradual shift from son to scammer. The warning signs I documented but hoped were misunderstandings. Year 1 after Paul died, Brandon called every day. How are you doing, Mom? Do you need anything? I'm here for you. Supportive, present, caring. The son I'd raised. The son I loved. The son I thought would always be there. We had dinner together once a week. He'd come to my house. We'd cook, talk, share stories about Paul, grieve together. It felt healing, like we were becoming closer through loss. Like Paul's death had brought us together in a new way. Then month 6, subtle changes started. Mom, how much did Dad leave you? Insurance? Savings? Just want to make sure you're okay financially. I'm comfortable. Paul planned well. I don't need to worry about money. But specifically, how much? I should know, in case something happens to you. In case I need to help. There's enough. Don't worry about me. He didn't like that answer. Got frustrated. I'm just trying to help. Why won't you tell me? Because it's private. My finances are my business. When I die, you'll inherit. But while I'm alive, it's mine to manage. He dropped it. But I noticed the shift. From concern about me to concern about money. From, are you okay, to, how much do you have? Red flag. Small but present. Year 2. The suggestion started. Always framed as help. Mom, I know a great wealth manager. Works with tech executives. Could probably double your returns. Want an introduction? My financial advisor is fine. Been with him for 20 years. He knows my goals. But he's old school. These new guys understand crypto, tech stocks, high-yield investments. You're probably missing out on huge returns. I don't need huge returns. I need stability, preservation, enough to live comfortably. That's what I have. But you could have so much more. Let me at least have my guy look at your portfolio. Free consultation. What's the harm? The harm was letting Brandon's contact see my full financial picture, understand exactly what I was worth, report back to Brandon. That's what he wanted. Information, access, knowledge. I declined. He got angry. You don't trust me. Your own son. I'm just trying to help you manage your money better. I'm managing fine. I don't need help. You're being stubborn and stupid. You're leaving money on the table because you won't listen to someone who actually understands modern investing. That was the first time he'd called me stupid, over refusing to let his contact access my finances, over protecting my privacy, over maintaining boundaries. Red flag. Bigger now. Year 3, the narrative started. Mom, you're getting forgetful. You told me the same story 3 times yesterday. You repeated yourself constantly. Are you okay? Maybe you should see a doctor. Get tested. I'm not forgetful, I'm fine. But you are repeating yourself. I notice it. Kayla notices it. We're worried. This is how dementia starts. Early memory problems. You need to get checked out. I hadn't repeated anything. Hadn't told the same story 3 times. Hadn't been forgetful. But he was creating a narrative. Planting seeds. Margaret's declining. Margaret's forgetful. Margaret needs help. Building the story he'd need later. To justify intervention. To justify taking over. I started recording our conversations. On my phone. Discreetly. Just audio. Dating every file. Documenting what was actually said. What I actually did. What he claimed I did. Building my own evidence. Protecting myself. Mom, did you pay your electric bill this month? I'm worried you're forgetting things. Missing payments. Messing up your finances. I have auto pay set up. Everything's handled, I don't forget. Are you sure? Because I checked with the electric company. They said you were late last month. You called my electric company? Without asking me? I was worried. I wanted to make sure you were okay, and you were late. That proves you're having trouble managing. I checked. I wasn't late. Never been late. Auto pay always worked. He'd lied about calling, or lied about what they said, or made the whole thing up, creating more narrative, more evidence of my alleged decline, more justification for intervention. I documented it all. Screenshots of my bills, paid on time, every time. Evidence that he was lying, that the narrative was false, that this was strategy, not concern. Protecting myself. Year 4, he brought Kayla into it. Tag team approach. Margaret, Brandon's really worried about you. He says you're declining, forgetting things, making poor financial decisions. Have you thought about getting help? Maybe moving somewhere with support? I'm fine. I'm not declining. I'm not forgetting. Brandon's lying. Why would he lie? He's your son. He loves you. He's just concerned. He's concerned about my money. Not about me. There's a difference. She looked shocked. Like the idea that Brandon might have ulterior motives never occurred to her. That's an awful thing to say. He's just trying to help. Help himself. To my money. That's what this is about. That's what it's always been about, she reported back to Brandon. He called angry. You told Kayla I'm after your money? That's insane. I'm trying to help you. You're paranoid. That's another sign of decline. You're seeing conspiracies that don't exist. Am I? Or are you gaslighting me, making me think I'm crazy when I'm actually seeing the situation clearly? This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're irrational, defensive, accusatory. You need help, Mom. Professional help. Projection. Classic manipulation. Accusing me of being irrational while he was the one trying to steal from me. Calling me paranoid while he was the one scheming. Making me doubt my own reality. Gaslighting. Textbook gaslighting. I documented this too. Every conversation. Every accusation. Every manipulation attempt. Building my file. Building my case. Preparing for the showdown I knew was coming. Year 5. The celebration trap was set. Carefully planned. Perfectly executed. Almost. He'd coordinated with family. Created forged evidence. Prepared legal documents. Rehearsed his presentation. Set the ambush. Expected me to surrender. What he didn't expect was that I'd been preparing too, documenting, recording, collecting evidence, building my own case, waiting for him to make his move so I could spring my trap. His celebration was my opportunity. His ambush was my evidence. His scheme was his conviction. The police investigation after my report was thorough. Detective Sarah Chen, Financial Crimes Unit. She'd seen cases like mine before. Adult children scamming elderly parents. Mrs. Hayes, you're lucky. Most victims don't recognize it. Don't document it. Don't report it. They let their kids steal from them because they can't accept that their own children would do this. You're different. You saw it. You documented it. You're prosecuting. That's rare. That's brave. It's not brave. It's survival. Brandon was trying to steal $1.8 million. That's not family drama. That's crime. I'm responding accordingly. Most mothers wouldn't. Most would make excuses. He's struggling financially. He's under stress. He didn't mean it. He's still my son. You're not doing that. Why? Because I raised him better than this. I taught him right from wrong. If he chooses wrong, he faces consequences. Being my son doesn't exempt him from that. It makes it worse. He betrayed me specifically, targeted me specifically, because I'm his mother and he thought I'd never fight back. He was wrong. Detective Chen smiled. Good. That attitude will help in court. Juries love to see victims who refuse to be victims, who stand up, who demand justice. You're going to make an excellent witness. The forensic accountant they assigned, David Wu, was equally thorough. Mrs. Hayes, I've reviewed your accounts going back 10 years. You're financially literate, responsible. No signs of decline. No suspicious transactions except the one forged check. Your son's narrative of you being incompetent is completely false. The evidence is clear. Can you prove it in court? Absolutely. I'll show your financial history, your responsible management, your clear capacity. Your son's narrative will fall apart completely. The jury will see that this wasn't about protecting you. It was about stealing from you. The trial prep was intense. Gerald walked me through every detail. Margaret, Brandon's attorney will try to paint you as vindictive, as a mother who's too harsh. Who should forgive? Who should drop charges? You need to be strong, clear, unemotional. Let the evidence speak. Don't let them make you the villain for prosecuting your own son. I'm not the villain. He forged checks. He's the criminal. I'm the victim. The jury will see that. They will. But his attorney will try to make them sympathize with him. Poor Brandon. Just trying to help his declining mother. You need to counter that narrative immediately. Show you're sharp, capable, victimized by a greedy son, not a confused woman making poor decisions. I practiced, rehearsed, prepared, made sure my testimony would be clear, compelling, undeniable, made sure the jury would see the truth. Brandon was a thief. I was protecting myself. Simple, clear, justified. The trial itself was emotionally exhausting. Sitting in that courtroom, watching Brandon at the defense table, listening to his attorney try to make me sound incompetent, watching my son lie on the witness stand, claiming he'd done nothing wrong, claiming he was trying to help, claiming I was confused and vindictive, but the evidence was overwhelming. The forged check, his fingerprints on fake charity documents, bank records, my documentation, recordings of his manipulation attempts, David Wu's expert testimony, Detective Chen's investigation report. Everything pointed to one conclusion. Brandon Hayes had attempted to defraud his mother of $1.8 million through forgery and manipulation. The prosecution's closing argument was devastating. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is not complicated. Brandon Hayes wanted his mother's money. He didn't want to wait for inheritance. He wanted access now, control now. So he created a plan, a scheme. He spent 5 years building a false narrative that his mother was declining, incompetent, vulnerable. He forged a check to create evidence of her being scammed. He coordinated with family to ambush her. He prepared trust documents giving him complete control. He thought she'd surrender, thought she'd sign, thought being her son gave him the right to her money. He was wrong. And now he's a criminal, guilty of forgery, guilty of fraud, guilty of exploitation. Don't let him claim he was helping. Helpers don't forge checks. Helpers don't lie to family. Helpers don't create fake evidence. Thieves do. Brandon Hayes is a thief. Convict him. The jury was out 4 hours. When they came back with guilty verdicts on all counts, I felt vindication, relief, justice. My son was a convicted felon. He'd spend years in prison. He'd lost everything. And he deserved every consequence. The sentencing hearing 2 weeks later was my moment. My victim impact statement. My chance to tell the court, and Brandon, exactly what his scheme had cost. Your Honor, I'm 72 years old. I'm a widow. My husband Paul died 7 years ago. Left me comfortable. Not rich, but comfortable. My son Brandon saw that money and decided it should be his. Not inheritance someday. His now. So he schemed. For 5 years. Lying, manipulating, creating false narratives, forging documents, all to steal from his own mother. He didn't care that I'd raised him, sacrificed for him, loved him. He only cared about money, about access, about control. He saw me not as his mother but as an obstacle to $1.8 million. He tried to remove that obstacle through legal manipulation. When I discovered his scheme, I had a choice. Protect him or protect myself. Let him face consequences or enable his criminal behavior. I chose myself. I chose consequences. I chose to show him that being my son doesn't give him the right to steal from me. I don't hate him. I don't want revenge. I want justice. I want him to understand that actions have consequences, that stealing is wrong even when the victim is your mother, especially when the victim is your mother, because that betrayal is deeper. That violation is worse. I ask the court to impose the maximum sentence, not because I'm cruel, but because Brandon needs to learn that greed destroys everything, that schemes backfire, that mothers aren't always helpless victims. Sometimes we fight back, and when we do, we win. Thank you. The judge's sentence, 8 years, was justice. Perfect justice. Long enough to matter. Long enough for Brandon to truly understand what he'd lost. Long enough for me to live freely without fear of his next scheme. When they led him away in handcuffs, he looked at me one last time. I saw pain, regret, understanding. Too late. All of it too late. He'd gambled everything on his scheme. Lost everything when it failed. That's what happens when you underestimate your mother. The years after Brandon's conviction were transformative. Without his presence, without his schemes, without constant vigilance against manipulation, I could finally relax, live, enjoy the money Paul had left me, enjoy my life without fear. I traveled, Europe, Asia, South America, places I'd always wanted to see, places Paul and I had planned to visit together. I went alone, made friends along the way, saw the world, lived fully, freely, without Brandon's shadow over everything. I donated. Animal Rescue got $100,000. Children's Hospital got $200,000. Alzheimer's Research got $150,000. Organizations doing real good, creating real impact, using money meaningfully, unlike Brandon who just wanted to hoard it, control it, waste it. I volunteered. Literacy programs, tutoring kids, helping adults learn to read, using my time well, making a difference, feeling purposeful, feeling valuable for who I was, not what I had. And I made my estate plans ironclad. Everything to charity, nothing to Brandon. Explicit language. My son Brandon Hayes is specifically excluded from any inheritance due to his criminal attempts to steal from me while I was alive. He is a convicted felon. He gets nothing. Clear. Undeniable. Permanent. Gerald helped me set up the distributions. Margaret, this is $2.1 million going to charity. That's substantial. That's legacy. That's impact. Brandon could have inherited all of this. Instead, he gets nothing. Do you ever regret that? Wish things were different? No. He made his choice. I made mine. He chose greed. I chose impact. He gambled and lost. I protected myself and won. No regrets. Only relief. 4 years after his conviction, Brandon was released on parole. I didn't acknowledge it, didn't visit, didn't call, didn't respond to his letter. He was a stranger now, someone I used to know, someone who'd tried to steal from me, Nothing more. His letter was pathetic. Mom, I'm sorry. Prison changed me. I understand now what I did, how wrong it was, how much I hurt you. Can we please rebuild? Can I prove I've changed? Can you give me another chance? Please? Another chance. He'd already had a lifetime of chances. Chances to be a good son. Chances to value relationship over money. Chances to choose integrity. He'd wasted them all. Chosen greed. Chosen manipulation. Chosen crime. Sorry now didn't undo any of that. Didn't rebuild trust. Didn't change who he'd proven himself to be. I threw the letter away. Moved on completely. He was my past. My charities were my future. The people I helped. The impact I made. The legacy I was building. That mattered. Brandon didn't. Not anymore. Present day, I'm 77. Brandon is 43. We haven't spoken in 5 years. Won't speak ever again. He's a felon with a record. I'm a widow with a legacy. He lost everything trying to steal everything. I have everything because I protected it. My will is finalized. 2.1 million to charity. Nothing to Brandon. If he contests, he pays all legal fees. Protection built in. Perfect boundaries even after death. He'll find out at the reading, after I'm gone, when it's too late to manipulate, too late to scheme, too late to steal. Just loss. Permanent loss. That's his inheritance. Nothing. Because he tried to take everything. That's justice. Real justice. Perfect justice. Not revenge. Consequence. Fair. Proportional. Permanent. My name is Margaret Hayes. 5 years ago, my son invited me to a family celebration to steal my money. I sent him to prison instead. He served 4 years. Lost everything. Got nothing. And I'm free. Finally. Completely. Permanently. He thought I was weak. Thought I'd surrender. Thought being my son gave him rights to my money. He was wrong about everything, and he'll spend the rest of his life knowing it. Share this if family tried to steal from you. Comment if you protected yourself instead of protecting them from consequences. Subscribe to Lindsay Stories for more stories of justice over family loyalty. He planned a celebration to take my money. I planned his arrest instead. Best decision I ever made. That's everything. There's something critical I need to address. Something people always ask when they hear this story. How can a mother send her own son to prison? How can you live with that? The answer is simple. How could I live with not sending him to prison? Brandon didn't just try to steal money. He tried to steal my autonomy, my independence, my dignity. He tried to have me declared incompetent, to take control of my life, to make me a ward dependent on his permission for everything. That's not just theft. That's imprisonment. He wanted to put me in a cage of his control, take away my right to make decisions, make me powerless, dependent, controlled, all so he could access $1.8 million. That's not a son. That's a predator. And predators go to prison. Family doesn't change that. Family makes it worse. Because the betrayal is deeper, the violation more profound, the damage more devastating. I didn't send Brandon to prison to punish him. I sent him to prison to protect myself, to show him that I have rights, that those rights matter, that violating them has consequences, real consequences, legal consequences, prison consequences. If I'd dropped the charges, if I'd said, he's my son, family forgives, what would I have taught him? That scheming works, that manipulation succeeds, that if you push hard enough, coordinate well enough, forge enough documents, mother will eventually surrender. That lesson would have guaranteed future attempts. More schemes. More manipulation. More theft attempts. Until he finally succeeded. Prison taught a different lesson. Steal from mother, go to prison, forge documents, get convicted. Try to take her autonomy, lose your own. Simple. Clear. Undeniable. A lesson he'll carry forever. A lesson that protected me, protected other potential victims, protected society from someone willing to exploit his own mother. That's not cruelty. That's justice. That's protection. That's refusing to enable criminal behavior just because the criminal shares my DNA. People who call me cruel don't understand. They think family means infinite forgiveness, infinite chances, infinite tolerance for violation. They're wrong. Family means higher expectations, higher standards, greater consequences when those standards are violated. Because family betrayal cuts deeper, hurts more, damages more profoundly. Brandon didn't just steal money. He stole 8 years of potential relationship. 8 years we could have spent building something real, something valuable, something worth more than $1.8 million. He chose money over that, chose scheme over son, chose greed over relationship. I just responded proportionally. He chose prison. I chose safety, fair trade. The charity work I do now is my real legacy. Not Brandon, not family, not blood. Impact. Real, tangible, meaningful impact. The animal rescue I fund, Paws and Claws, Senior Sanctuary, specializes in elderly dogs. Dogs abandoned when they get old, when they're no longer cute puppies, when they cost more in vet bills than their owners want to pay. Dogs like Charlie, a 15-year-old beagle I met last year. Charlie's family surrendered him because he needed expensive dental surgery. We can't afford it. Just put him down. Put down a loving, gentle, loyal dog because a dental procedure costs too much. Heartbreaking, infuriating, preventable. My donation funded Charlie's surgery, his recovery care, his adoption by a retired veterinarian who gives senior dogs their best final years. Charlie lived another 18 months. Comfortable, loved, valued, not abandoned, not discarded, not killed for being expensive. That's impact. That's legacy. That's what $2.1 million should do. Save Charlie's. Fund David's. The scholarship recipients living dreams my husband never got to live. Support programs helping caregivers like I was. Make actual difference. Not sit in Brandon's bank account funding his lifestyle. The children's hospital I donated to, St. Mary's, sent me a letter last month. Mrs. Hayes, your donation funded a new wing, pediatric cancer care, state-of-the-art equipment, private rooms for families. You've impacted thousands of children and families. This is your legacy. Thank you. Thousands of children, getting better care, better outcomes, better support. Because I chose charity over Brandon, chose impact over inheritance, chose strangers who'd use money well over a son who wanted to steal it. No regrets. Zero regrets. This is what money should do. This is what inheritance should fund. Not greed, impact. The Alzheimer's Research Foundation I support, Memory Forward, is working on early detection protocols. Tests that could identify Alzheimer's years before symptoms appear, allowing early intervention, slowing progression, maybe even prevention someday. My donation-funded clinical trials, equipment, researchers. Progress toward a future where dementia isn't inevitable, where people don't lose themselves, don't forget their children, don't become strangers living in their own bodies. If that research succeeds, if they develop effective early detection and treatment, my donation will have impacted millions. Millions of people who won't suffer what Paul's mother suffered, what I watched Helen suffer, what countless families endure. That's worth $2.1 million. That's worth more than any relationship with Brandon. The literacy program I volunteer with, Read and Succeed, teaches adults to read. People who slipped through cracks, who never learned, who've hidden illiteracy their whole lives. Like Maria, a 53-year-old woman I tutored last year. Maria had faked literacy her entire adult life, memorized enough to function, had her kids read things to her, avoided situations requiring reading, lived in constant fear of exposure, then decided at 52 that she was done hiding, done pretending, done being limited by something she could learn. I tutored her twice a week for 8 months, watched her sound out words, struggle through sentences, gradually improve, eventually read her first complete book, a children's book, but still. She cried, I cried, we celebrated. Now Maria reads everything. Street signs, menus, news articles, books, freedom she'd never had, independence she'd never known. All because someone cared enough to teach her. Someone valued her enough to invest time. That someone was me. That investment was my time, my gift, my legacy. Brandon could never understand that. Could never value human impact over financial return, could never see that helping Maria read matters more than whatever he wanted to buy with $1.8 million. That's why he's disinherited. Not as punishment, as protection, protecting my legacy from someone who'd waste it. Last month, I updated my will again, added specific bequests, detailed instructions, personal messages to the organizations I'm leaving money to St. Mary's Children's Hospital. This donation honors my late husband, Paul Hayes, who believed children deserve the best care possible. Use this to continue providing hope to families facing impossible situations. That's what Paul would have wanted. That's what I want. That's legacy. To Memory Forward Alzheimer's Research. My friend Helen battled dementia for years. This donation honors her struggle and funds research so future Helens might be spared. Find the cure. Find the prevention. Find the hope. That's what this money should do. To Paws and Claws Senior Sanctuary. This donation ensures elderly dogs never die abandoned, never die alone, never die believing they weren't loved. Every dog deserves dignity in their final years. Fund that dignity. That's meaningful use of money. To Read and Succeed Literacy Program. This donation honors every adult brave enough to admit they can't read and determined enough to learn. Literacy is freedom. Fund that freedom. Help more Marias. That's impact. Each organization getting specific amounts, specific purposes, specific legacies, all documented, all explained, all permanent, and all completely excluding Brandon Hayes, convicted felon who tried to steal from his mother. Gerald reviewed the updated will last week. Margaret, this is beautiful. This is real legacy. Organizations will remember you. People will benefit from you. Your impact will extend decades beyond your life. That's what inheritance should do. Exactly. Not fund Brandon's lifestyle. Fund actual good, actual change, actual impact. He gambled that I'd surrender. Lost everything. This is why. Because I was building something better. Something permanent. Something meaningful. Do you ever think about him? Wonder how he's doing? No. He's not my son anymore. He's someone who tried to steal from me. I don't think about thieves. I think about impact. About legacy. About the good my money will do. Brandon chose to remove himself from that. That's his loss, not mine. 3 days ago, I celebrated my 77th birthday. Small party. Friends from my book club. Volunteers from Read and Succeed. Staff from Paws and Claws. People who value me for me. Not for my money. Not for what I can give them. For who I am. What I contribute. How I show up. We had cake. Laughed. Shared stories. Someone asked, Margaret, what's the best decision you've ever made? I thought about it. About Brandon's arrest, his conviction, his prison sentence, about disinheriting him, protecting myself, building my legacy, all of it, everything, choosing myself over family obligation, protecting my autonomy over protecting my son from consequences, building impact over enabling greed. Those decisions, that choice. Best thing I ever did. Do you regret losing your son? I didn't lose him. He lost himself. He chose greed over relationship. I just stopped pretending we had something worth protecting. That's not loss. That's clarity. That's freedom. That's choosing reality over fantasy. Would you do it differently? If you could go back? Yes. I'd press charges sooner, document better, protect myself earlier. But prosecute him? Send him to prison? Disinherit him? I'd do all of that again. Exactly the same. Without hesitation. Without regret. Without apology. Because it was right. It was necessary. It was self-protection. And that's always the right choice. They toasted me. Celebrated me. Valued me. Not for my money. For my strength. My boundaries. My refusal to be a victim. My choice to protect myself even when it meant losing family. That's the person they admired. That's the friend they valued. That's who I'd become. Strong, boundaried, free. Tomorrow I'm meeting with St. Mary's Hospital administrator. They want to name the pediatric wing after Paul. The Paul Hayes Pediatric Cancer Center. His name, his legacy, his impact. Not Brandon's. Paul's. As it should be. As I'll make sure it stays. I'm bringing the dedication plaque design. Paul's photo, his story, his belief that children deserved the best. His legacy documented, permanent, meaningful. The kind of legacy worth building, worth protecting, worth choosing over a son who wanted to steal it. That's my focus now. Not Brandon, not the past, not the betrayal, the future, the impact, the legacy, the good my money will do, the lives my choices will improve, the difference my autonomy, protected, preserved, defended, will make. Brandon wanted to take that from me, wanted to control it, wanted to waste it on himself. I stopped him, prosecuted him, disinherited him, protected my legacy from his greed. That's victory. That's justice. That's the right choice. 5 years later, I stand by it. Completely. Totally. Absolutely. He's in prison of his own making. Even though he's out of actual prison, he's imprisoned by his record, his reputation, his loss. I'm free in every way. Free to live, free to give, free to impact, free to build legacy, free to choose, free. That freedom cost me a son. Worth it. Every time. Without question. Without doubt. Without regret. Freedom to protect yourself. Freedom to choose impact over family. Freedom to build legacy. That's priceless. That's worth more than $2.1 million. That's worth everything. My name is Margaret Hayes. 5 years ago, my son tried to steal my autonomy, my money, my life. I sent him to prison instead. 4 years served. Everything lost. Nothing gained. Perfect consequence. 5 years later, I'm free. He's a felon. I'm building legacy. He lost everything. I have everything. He tried to take it. I protected it. He gambled. I won. Simple, fair, just. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure that $2.1 million does more good than Brandon ever could have imagined. More impact than he'd ever create. More legacy than he'd ever build. That's my revenge. Not punishment, but proving that protecting myself was worth it. That choosing impact over enabling was right. That my money, used well, matters more than his greed ever could. Share this if you've protected yourself from family greed. Comment if you've chosen your autonomy over family approval. Subscribe to Lindsay Stories for more stories of boundaries, justice, and refusing to be anyone's victim. He invited me to a celebration to take my money. I sent him to prison and built a legacy instead. Best decision I ever made. That's everything. This morning, I woke up in my home, the home I still own. The home Brandon tried to steal control of. The home that's mine. Completely, legally, permanently mine. I made coffee, sat on my porch, watched the sunrise, and thought about Margaret from 5 years ago, the woman who walked into that celebration, who sat in that chair facing coordinated family pressure, who was handed documents demanding she surrender everything, that Margaret was scared, uncertain, wondering if maybe they were right, if maybe she was declining, if maybe she should just sign and make everyone happy, if maybe family peace was worth surrendering autonomy, but that Margaret had been preparing, documenting, recording, building evidence, setting traps, waiting for Brandon to make his move so she could spring hers, that Margaret was stronger than she looked, smarter than Brandon thought, more prepared than anyone expected. I want to tell that Margaret something. You're about to win. Everything. Brandon thinks he's trapped you. He's trapped himself. His scheme will become his conviction. His manipulation will become his prison sentence. His greed will cost him everything. Stand firm. Stay strong. You're about to show everyone exactly what happens when you underestimate your mother. And 5 years from now, you'll wake up free, autonomous, powerful, building legacy, creating impact, living fully. Without Brandon, without schemes, without fear, you'll have won. Completely, permanently, perfectly. Stay strong. Press charges. Let justice work. Protect yourself. Choose impact over enabling. You're making the right choice. The best choice. The only choice. Love, Margaret, 5 years later. I'll never send that letter. It's just for me. A reminder that I made it. That scared, uncertain woman survived. Thrived. Became the woman I am now. Strong. Boundaried. Free. Choosing myself. Choosing impact. Choosing legacy. That's the real story. Not revenge. Not punishment. Not cruelty. Growth. Evolution. Becoming someone who protects herself even when it costs relationships. Even when it costs family. Even when others judge. becoming someone who values autonomy more than approval, impact more than inheritance for undeserving children, legacy more than family peace. That growth cost me Brandon. Worth it. Every time. Without question. Because the alternative, surrendering, signing, becoming controlled, would have cost me myself, my autonomy, my dignity, my life. No son is worth that. No relationship is worth that. No family obligation is worth that. The memorial for Paul, the Paul Hayes Pediatric Cancer Center dedication ceremony, is next month. I'll stand there, cut the ribbon, give a speech about the man I loved, the legacy he deserves, the impact his name will make. Paul Hayes believed children deserved the best care, the best chance, the best hope. This center honors that belief, provides that care, offers that hope. His name will live here, in these walls, in this healing, in this impact. That's legacy. That's what matters. That's what inheritance should fund. Not greed, not schemes, not theft. This, always this. Brandon won't be there, won't be mentioned, won't be part of Paul's legacy. He removed himself, chose crime, chose greed, chose prison. He gets nothing. No role, no mention, no inheritance, just absence, permanent absence, earned absence, fair absence. And I'll stand there knowing I protected this, protected Paul's memory from being tainted by Brandon's greed, protected the money from being stolen, protected the legacy from being wasted. That's victory. That's justice. That's worth celebrating. The life I'm living now, free, impactful, meaningful, is the life Brandon tried to steal, tried to control, tried to manage through a trust he'd manipulate for his benefit. I kept it, protected it, enhanced it, made it mine, completely mine. That's the ultimate revenge, not his prison sentence, my freedom, my joy, my impact, my choice. Every charity donation, every volunteer hour, every Maria learning to read, every Charlie saved from euthanasia, every child treated in Paul's name, every breakthrough in Alzheimer's research. That's my life. That's my legacy. That's what Brandon's greed can never touch, never steal, never control, never diminish. He tried to take my money. I took control of my destiny. He gambled everything. I protected everything. He lost. I won. Simple math, fair outcome, perfect justice. Last week, someone asked me at book club, Margaret, if you could give advice to anyone facing family pressure for money, what would you say? I thought about it. About everything. About Brandon. About the scheme. About the trial. About the 5 years since. About the freedom. About the impact. About choosing myself. All of it. I'd say, document everything. Trust your instincts. Protect yourself legally. Press charges if necessary. Don't let family guilt you into surrendering your autonomy. Don't let blood excuse crime. Don't let obligation override your rights. Your money is yours. Your choices are yours. Your life is yours. Defend it, fiercely, completely, without apology. Because nobody will protect you if you won't protect yourself. Nobody will value your autonomy if you don't value it first. Nobody will respect your boundaries if you don't enforce them. So document, prepare, set traps if necessary, and when they spring those traps, prosecute. Fully, completely, perfectly. That's not cruelty. That's survival. That's strength. That's self-love. And that's always the right choice. They nodded. Several shared their own stories. Family members asking for money, relatives pressuring for loans, siblings demanding equal inheritance, adult children expecting funding, all variations of the same thing. Family viewing you as a resource instead of a person, family prioritizing money over relationship, family forgetting that you have rights, that you matter, that your autonomy is non-negotiable. What did you do? I asked them. I said no. They got angry. We don't speak now. I feel guilty. Don't. The guilt proves you value relationship. That's beautiful. But they proved they value money. That's ugly. You can't have a real relationship with someone who only values what you can give them financially. You can only have a transaction. You chose to end the transaction. That's healthy? That's strong? That's right. But they're family. So are you. You're your own family. The person you wake up with every day. The person you'll live with forever. The person you have to protect above everyone else. Choose yourself every time, without apology. That's not selfish. That's survival. This conversation repeated my own journey, my own choices, my own strength, and I realized that's my real legacy. Not just the money I give, but the example I set, the strength I model, the message I send. Protect yourself, even from family. Especially from family, because family can hurt you worse, can manipulate you more effectively, can violate you more deeply, and you have the right, the obligation, to defend yourself. No guilt, no apology, no hesitation. Brandon taught me that lesson, unwillingly, unwittingly, but effectively. He showed me that family isn't sacred, that blood doesn't exempt crime, that love doesn't mean surrender, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for yourself, for them, for everyone, is prosecute. Enforce consequences. Demand justice. Protect yourself. That lesson cost him everything. 8 years of schemes, 4 years in prison, loss of relationship, permanent disinheritance, felony record, everything. All because he forgot that his mother had rights, had strength, had the will to protect herself, had the courage to choose herself. I didn't forget. I remembered. I acted. I won. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure that victory, that choice, that courage creates maximum impact, maximum legacy, maximum meaning. $2.1 million building better world, saving Charlies, teaching Mariahs, healing children, funding research, creating hope, making difference. That's what Brandon's greed funded. Ironically, perfectly, justly. He tried to steal my money. His theft attempt created my legacy. His scheme became my purpose. His greed became my motivation. His loss became my gain. Perfect karma. Perfect justice. Perfect ending. My name is Margaret Hayes. I'm 77 years old. 5 years ago, my son tried to steal my autonomy and my money through forgery and manipulation. I sent him to prison. He served 4 years. Lost everything. Learned nothing. Or maybe learned everything. Doesn't matter. He's gone. I'm here. I'm free. I'm building legacy. I'm choosing impact. I'm living fully. That's the story. Not revenge, not cruelty, not punishment. Self-protection, boundary enforcement, justice demanded, legacy built, life lived, freedom earned, choice made, victory won. He invited me to a celebration to take my money. I sent him to prison and chose myself instead. Best decision, best outcome, best life. Share if you've protected yourself from family. Comment if you've chosen autonomy over obligation. Subscribe for more stories of strength, boundaries, and refusing to be anyone's victim. That's everything. That's my story. That's my truth. That's my legacy. And it's perfect. Tonight, before bed, I'll update my journal. The one I started 5 years ago. The day after Brandon's fake celebration. The day I decided to document everything. To build my case. To protect myself through evidence. That journal has 1,047 entries now. 5 years of documentation, of growth, of choices, of strength, of freedom earned. The final entry will be simple. Day 1847. 5 years since Brandon's scheme. 5 years since I chose myself. 5 years of living freely. Building legacy. Creating impact. Choosing autonomy over obligation. Strength over surrender. Impact over enabling. Worth it. Every day. Every choice. Every consequence. Worth it. Brandon is gone. Margaret is free. Legacy is building. Life is good. Choice was right. Always right. Forever right. That's everything. I'll close the journal. Put it with my will. Part of my estate documents. Part of my story. Part of the evidence that I made the right choice. Protected myself. Built legacy. Lived fully. That documentation will outlive me. Will explain my choices. Will vindicate my decisions. Will show that sometimes the most loving thing a mother can do is prosecute her son. Not to destroy him, but to save herself. Brandon destroyed himself. I just refuse to be destroyed with him. That's not cruelty. That's survival. That's strength. That's the choice every person facing family manipulation should make. Protect yourself. Document everything. Prosecute if necessary. Choose yourself. Every time. Without guilt. Without apology. Without regret. That's my message. That's my legacy. That's my truth. And I stand by it. Completely. Permanently. Perfectly. He thought I was weak. I proved I was strong. He thought family meant surrender. I proved family means boundaries. He thought greed would work. I proved justice wins. Simple. True. Perfect. 5 years later, one truth remains. I made the right choice. Sending Brandon to prison, disinheriting him, building legacy without him, choosing impact over enabling, choosing myself over family obligation. Right choice. Best choice. Only choice. And I'll defend that choice, that strength, that freedom, until my last breath, because it's worth defending, worth protecting, worth celebrating, worth sharing. So others know, you can protect yourself from family. You can choose yourself. You can prosecute your own children if they try to steal from you. You can build legacy instead of funding greed. You can win. I did. You can too. That's the message. That's the hope. That's the truth. He invited me to a celebration to take my money. I chose myself and built legacy instead. 5 years later, he has nothing. I have everything. Perfect justice. Perfect outcome. Perfect life. That's everything. Really. Truly. Finally. Everything. Tomorrow morning, I'll wake up free. The day after that, free. The day after that, free. Every day for the rest of my life, free. Free from Brandon's schemes. Free from manipulation. Free from fear that someone's plotting to steal my autonomy. Free to choose. Free to give. Free to live. Free to impact. Free. That freedom, that choice, that life, is worth more than any relationship with a son who viewed me as an obstacle to money. Worth more than family peace built on my surrender. Worth more than avoiding judgment from people who don't understand that sometimes prosecuting family is the most loving thing you can do. Brandon taught me freedom's price. 4 years of his life in prison, 8 years total of consequences, permanent disinheritance, forever loss. That's what my freedom cost him. Fair price, just price, perfect price. And what did my freedom cost me? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I didn't lose a son. I lost a thief. I didn't lose family. I lost a manipulator. I didn't lose relationship. I lost a scheme. Net positive. Every single time. No regrets, no doubts, no second thoughts. Just freedom. Just impact. Just legacy. Just life well lived. Just choice well made. Just strength well used. That's everything. That's enough. That's perfect. My name is Margaret Hayes. My son tried to steal my life. I chose myself instead. 5 years later, he has nothing. I have everything that matters. Freedom, autonomy, legacy, impact, life, choice, strength, all mine, all protected, all perfect. He invited me to a celebration to take my money. I sent him to prison and chose freedom instead. Best decision I ever made. Only decision I could make. Right decision every single time. Share this. Comment. Subscribe. And remember, you can choose yourself, even over family, especially over family who try to steal from you. That's not cruelty. That's survival. That's strength. That's love for yourself. And that's always right. That's everything.